Welcome to Season 3 of Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we empower, inspire, and uplift women to be the goddesses they truly are. I'm your co-host, Julietta, the magical PT, owner and founder of Body and Soul PT, as well as Soul Candy, intuitive, handmade, and one-of-a-kind jewelry and artwork. I support people in finding the magic within themselves, creating balance in their body and soul.
And I'm your other co-host, Graciela, published, award-winning, and professionally certified portrait photographer specializing in boudoir and personal branding. I create portraits of who you are and not just what you look like so that you can become who you've always been. Join us each week as we sit down for a heart-to-heart chat, sharing stories and insights with listeners across the globe. Laughter and tears alike abound as we access ancient wisdom in modern times through unique and exciting storytelling, supporting you on your life's journey. Welcome to the circle and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the show. Here we are.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I bet you our editors hate that I always throw my welcome on top of your welcome. Sorry about that.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
You know what? It's just real life. I'm Cuban. This is how I talk. Like, I don't have the patience to wait for you to finish your sentence. I apologize. Everyone out there can just live with my layers. It's okay. It's just going to be okay.
We love your layers, Graciela.
You know what else you love? You love my TikTok addiction.
I do love your TikTok addiction.
I know. I'm telling you, I wish I could get like a PhD in TikTok. Like, I don't produce TikTok, so don't go looking for it, people. But I do love to just scroll at the end of the day. What's really amazing, and I find this like oddly comforting, is that you will never watch every video on TikTok because they are literally being uploaded at a faster rate than you can physically watch them. So it's like this black hole, endless supply of, 3-minute bits of information. So
what's the latest thing you learned from TikTok, Graciela?
TikTok should pay me, damn it. I will tell you, I learned something because, I love words. I love where things come from. And so I probably should have watched this again to get it totally right, but whatever, you guys can find it. So I saw a video about how, I want to say it was in England back in the day, archery was really important. And so everybody, all the men, well, of course, right? All the men, probably the women in secret, but all the men would study and practice archery. And so at the end of the day, when they were done, they would remove, like, I don't know what it's called, but you have the bow and then you have like the string that you actually like use to pull back, right? So that string, when you take it off of the bow, it's called knocking off. So that's why today we say, hey, buddy, it's 5:00. Let's knock off and go grab a beer. Like, isn't that it? Like, I love that. I love when to figure out like where these little phrases come from. Like, why do we say that? Hey, man, let's just knock off at 3:00 and go do whatever, right?
Oh, I will say, I don't know if I've ever said that, but I have heard other people say
I don't know. Like, Leave It to Beaver probably said it. I don't know. No, probably not Leave It to Beaver. Probably like a Roseanne show or something. I don't know.
I also feel like I should know what the string is on the bow and arrow. Like, I come from families of outdoorsmen who my dad is 76 now, and I think we talked about it.
Quite the mountain man.
There's no mountains in Wisconsin, but they are definitely outdoorsmen. And my dad in Wisconsin, you can get a bear tag once every 9 years. So my dad got a bear tag this year, and he got a bear. And when I tell people that my dad got a bear, everybody assumes he shot it with a gun, but my dad actually shot it with a bow and arrow.
That's incredible.
Killed a bear with a bow and arrow. I got to eat bear meat when I was home. But like, you're sitting there talking about the string, and I'm like, I'm sure it's called something besides the string. And I feel like I should know this coming from these outdoorsmen who use bow and arrows and they don't say kill, they harvest animals.
Yes.
And
well, I know your family is really good at using and eating and doing everything that you're supposed to do, right? With when you harvest an animal, let's say. I know there's a lot of different ways of how people feel about these things, and that's okay. but I think it's, I can't believe he used a bow and arrow. Like, that's incredible. See, this is why we need a call in. We need to get dad in. I know you've had your dad on the show before, but I think we need a whole new conversation. I mean, and 76, kudos to him. But he knocks off at the end of the day. I don't know. Does he? We have to find out. Does he take the string off and let it rest? I don't know. What happens? It's killing.
I know he uses, the bows and arrows these days are a bit more complicated and because he tore his biceps tendon, so he doesn't have the same strength in that arm. So he does use a special bow that he can actually do this with his impaired arm.
Well, if he needs a physical therapist.
Yeah. What I can't do is when a tendon is completely ruptured, I haven't figured out yet how to magically put that back together.
I'm 100% certain you're working on it, though.
But I am, he is extremely, extremely fun. Given all the parts of his body that he's broken, he is the most fun. And, at 76, he's still bear hunting.
Well,
so
this is, I don't know if we've talked about this on the show before or not, but, blue zones, I'm obsessed with the whole blue zones but research project. And one of the keys to a long life that was discovered, if you will, through the Blue Zones project is leading a very active life, right? Like being sedentary. And when you stop moving, you stop living, like one of the things you got to do is to keep on moving. So honestly, my mom is 77, I think. If she'd probably fall over if she picked up a bow and arrow, much less walk anywhere with it. So I think that's so amazing that your dad stays so active. And, he's probably got another 20 years to go.
I often say he may outlive me. So got a lot of centenarians in his lineage. So
interesting.
Anyway, I think it's time to bring our guest on the show.
Speaking of life force.
Yeah, he might have some stuff to add to our conversation. Hello, Dr. Andrew Bosier in the house. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you for the invite. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome to our female-centered, male-friendly spaces.
I love it. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to get an education on the bow and arrow this morning.
Right, thanks, TikTok.
I do have some experience, growing up where I grew up, but it is interesting. I never knew that's why we knock off at 5 o'clock. So that's a great little tidbit of information.
Dr. Andrew knocks off.
That's true. He does.
I'm not even going to say what that sounds like.
Oh, man.
It's just taking a break, girl. It's just taking a break. Well, since we've told the audience you're a doctor already, would you mind taking just a couple minutes and introduce yourself? Let the audience know who you are, what you do, whatever juicy tidbit you'd like to share so that we get to know you.
Yes, I am a chiropractor, a doctor of chiropractic. I graduated in 2007, and I practice in Fort Lauderdale and also in Palm Beach. I am the father of 4 children, 1 grandson, and hopefully soon to be a son-in-law someday.
4 kids. You are a busy man.
Yes, I am. I finally figured out what's causing it. So.
Nice.
Oh man.
You agree with ours?
Digress so easily.
Do you agree with our assessment about moving, keeping your body moving? I mean, you are a chiropractor from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Really as chiropractors, that is our primary role is to keep motion in the spine, very complementary to what Julietta does, for physical therapy practice. It's all about motion in the joints and the muscles, and a body that stays in motion stays in, that's in motion stays in motion, as we learned, growing up in physics. So it's really the primary part of what I believe that we do is to keep the body functioning and moving to its optimal ability.
I think what was interesting too, when we were talking about that research though, these people they're not going to the gym. They're not doing CrossFit or Orange Theory or these centenarians or Blue Zone people. They're being active in life. And I think it does get to be a challenge in the 21st century to actually have our life stay active. Like, unfortunately, Graciela and I are sitting in front of the computer the whole day here today recording podcasts. So we have to get up in between episodes and shake our booties a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a metaphor, to the body staying in motion, but also keeping the mind in motion, keeping the mind active. And I do have some of those folks in my family lineage that are older but very active. My Aunt Queen being one of my favorite people in the world. She's 90 years old. We just celebrated her birthday, but her mind is so active and her mind stays in motion. And it's certainly what gives her her youthful appearance and just her pure love of life in general.
That's amazing. When I read through those books, I kind of I love and appreciate all my modern conveniences. Like, I don't want to take my clothes down to the river to beat it by a rock. But man, sometimes I think maybe that's the way, I'm almost a little jealous of folks that live in cities that are really walkable. Here, it's just not walkable where we are. You'd have to really live in some of the most prime real estate in Fort Lauderdale to be able to go downstairs across the river, just a couple blocks here and there to access what you need. But like Portland and New York and, places like that, it's interesting, that fitting in physical activity into your daily life, right?
So speaking of laundry, I hang my clothes out to dry.
Do you?
I do. It's something I started probably like a year ago or something. It started out like very little. And then when I realized how amazing your clothes smell when they've been dried outside in the fresh air, I can't stop. Like, I was so disappointed this weekend. We had a ton of rain. And so a lot of my laundry had to be dried in the dryer instead of on the line. But I did get some in on Saturday. But it's incredible. I highly recommend it. And it also brings back, like, my grandma dried her clothes. Like, that's how I learned how to do it. I'd go stay with her for 2 weeks every summer, and I'd have to help her hang the clothes on the line. And
I mean, that's how I grew up. My mom did that. And I mean, I'm only, quote unquote, 48, it wasn't that long ago, that we did that all the time.
Yeah, those balanced dryer sheets just don't cut it. They really don't give it that fresh air smell like they claim to do. So
that's one of the most toxic things. Like, nobody should ever use bounce dryer sheets. Like, get yourself the wool dryer balls or something. Stop using sorry, bounce, but that stuff is toxic. Don't use it.
Hang them outside. I like that. I like that rule.
Although now I feel like I'd have to grow like a tiny forest around my house so that people don't see my unmentionables hanging in the backyard.
My bras and panties are hanging out there. If someone wants to come look at them, have at it. We got to dive into our questions, though, man.
Okay.
So, Dr. Bosier, we want, I'm sure you have a cajillion success stories with your clients, but we want to hear one of your really good, juicy stories that just continues to have you be passionate about what you do.
Yeah, there's one in particular that comes to mind. I do love, in general, seeing people that come to us on day one. They're in pain. They're having, this issue that they've lived with for quite some time. And a lot of times they come across as rude in the beginning and, you really don't get to see much of their personality. And then 2 weeks later, as they start to feel better, you see that change in their personality. So you see what happens, to the brain and to someone's experience in their life whenever they're living with chronic pain. So I really value that. It's something that we see very commonly. It's something that I love on a daily basis. But there is one in particular, one story that really made the biggest impact on me. I was fairly new in practice. I graduated 2007. So this is probably about 2009, 2010. I was treating and a mother comes in with her 11-year-old son. And, it was kind of vague. She was kind of vague with the history of why she's bringing him, except for to say that, yeah, he has maybe some low back pain or some, pain in his mid back, but it was kind of vague. But I love working with young people. And so I just kind of, started to work with the young man and found out that he had some issues going on with his low back and his pelvis, a lot of tightness and the joints there, restricted motion. The muscles were very tight. So I began adjusting him, and I adjusted him 2 times a week for 2 weeks. So it was 4 visits. And then on the 3rd week, his mother brings him in and she said, can I talk to you for a moment? And I said, sure, absolutely. So we go into the treatment room. She had him wait out in the waiting area. And as soon as the door closed, she just started streaming tears. And, you're kind of wondering what's going on here. And she said, I just have to tell you that he was able to spend the night at his friend's house over the weekend for the first time. And I'm like, okay, it's great. He's 11 years old. Maybe they're just a little controlling. All these things are racing through my mind. And then she proceeds to tell me that he had not been able to stay at his friend's house or stay over because he was wetting the bed. And since beginning treatment, he was no longer wetting the bed. And so he actually felt confident enough to stay over the night at one of his friend's house at 11 years old.
Wow.
And it just struck me so deep. I mean, I didn't really, I'd heard about stories like that, but you just don't know the impact that you can actually make in someone's life. And it's just something that's always stuck with me. In those times when it's been difficult, I can always kind of fall back on that story and just being able to know, hey, I can actually, maybe make a difference like that in someone's life.
Absolutely. I think there's no doubt that every interaction we have with each other changes the course of someone's life. And the bigger the interaction, the bigger the course change, right? I see it as water going through a creek, right? Every rock, this is why we don't move rocks when we get to places, right? Because it changes the way the water flows, and how incredibly impactful that you were able to do that for him, right? I participate with a nonprofit that supports kids living in chronic pain. And again, it's just amazing to see how one tiny little thing that maybe you didn't even think it mattered, right? Like maybe that day it was just a quick little 10-minute interaction and you thought, whatever, I didn't even notice it because I was so busy today or whatever. But to that person, it meant the world,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's really beautiful. That's really powerful. And I'm sure you have a ton of stories like that.
I do have some fun ones, that's for sure. I love this profession. I believe I was born to be a chiropractor. So it makes, coming to work, every day that much easier.
That's beautiful. I love that. I find that chiropractors tend to be chiropractors for a really long time. It's not the kind of profession you leave easily behind, right?
That's for sure.
So our show is kind of for women. And I love having men on because I like knowing how much of you is influenced by the women in your life. So if you, what is one piece of advice that a woman has given you that has changed the course of your life a bit?
Yeah, I was speaking about my Aunt Queen earlier, and she is someone who is definitely just a force in my life. I mean, the way she conducts herself, she's one of the most positive people that I've ever met. Just a woman living with simple means that just feels rich and full in her life. And she's a beacon of light for people. And so she is somebody that I always look to as a standard, that if I could become, maybe not half the woman, but as a man, if I could become half the man that would match what she is as a woman, it would just be, I would feel validated that, hey, I've done a good job on this earth. And so she is a constant inspiration to me. And I also have to mention my 3 daughters. Their collective voice is something that causes me to grow and to change and to strive to be better every day. And, the difference that they've made in my life is, it just goes without saying. I mean, I really don't have the words to really describe.
Beautiful. And I don't know why I forgot that you had 3 daughters, which I think that is a special challenge that is presented to men, to put all these women in your life. And it takes a special man to be able to thrive in that environment.
Well, they're teachers for me. I really believe that they're here, I learn more from them most of the time. I feel like I'm getting instruction more than I'm giving it. So it's really been something that's been rewarding for me. And I have a son too. He's amazing. Him and I have a great time. He's the youngest, so he has these 3 older sisters that really play a big influence and make a big impact in his life as well too. So.
Juliet and I always talk about the best way to influence and share gifts with others is simply by being your best self. And I think you've just described 4 women in your life of varying ages who are influencing you just by being their best selves. I mean, yes. That's really powerful because now you're getting it holistically, right? Like it's a whole experience.
Absolutely.
So we learn from the people in our lives, but we also learn from the books in our lives. And Graciela, probably more than me, but we're both big readers and book addicts. And so we're always curious, what book have you read that you wish every goddess would read?
I'm so thankful for the people that take time to write words down. Books have been an instrumental part in creating the person that I am today, and I know it will continue to be in the future. I think I, could say for many years now, I constantly go from one to another, and they're usually in the self-help space. So I always love the metaphysical, the self-help, those things that give me what I believe are tools to help me move forward and to become a better version of myself. One that really comes in mind, a female author, is Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. This is a book that was published in 1925. And, early on, I came from a religious background, so the Bible was very influential in my early years. And I feel like I kind of went on my own sort of detour path, sort of away from some of those more religious teachings, just because some of the adults that I was asking at the time, I don't feel like they could really answer some of the questions that I had. And so I was a seeker from a very young age. And so I kind of went away from a lot of those teachings and more into metaphysical healing or metaphysical concepts, especially as I got into chiropractic school and started learning more. And then I got introduced to her several years ago, and she does a great job of sort of blending, spiritual scriptures and spirituality with metaphysical concepts and explanations. And so I just love the way that she kind of is able to, take those personal anecdotes and show us how we can use the positive affirmations, show us how we can create real change in our life through processes that she describes in her book. So The Game of Life and How to Play It is just a fantastic book that she wrote. And also The Secret Door to Success is another great one of hers. So she's definitely been influential in that realm.
I love that. And the universal truths stand the test of time. And, I laugh. I don't know how, but I feel like in recent years, there's been a lot of metaphysical stuff to come forward and people think that this stuff is new. It's like, no, it existed from the beginning of time.
Right. Why are they calling it new age? What?
New age, yes, right. New old age. That's for sure.
Yeah, I have a bunch of those older books on my shelf. Haven't gotten to all of them yet because there's only so many hours in a day. But it's interesting. You pick up an old book, it has the same messages that the books have today because the universal truths stand the test of time.
You absolutely took the words out of my mouth. And that was what I was going to say about universal truths always find a way to surface. Just last night, I watched a movie called Stutz. Have you seen that? I think not. It's Stutz, I think it's how it's spelled. It's on Netflix, and it's Jonah Hill interviewing his therapist. I don't know if it's a therapist or psychologist, psychiatrist. I can't remember his exact title, but at the end of the day, it's his therapist. And the entire purpose of him creating this movie was to share some of the tools and gems that he learned from his therapist. I really think he's trying to give free therapy to the world is what he's trying to do, with this movie, but it's really raw. And this therapist has his own language around, just different tools, right? Like our shadow selves and the voice in your head that tells you can't do things, right? Like all of these things. And what was really crazy is by the end of the movie, I was like, yeah, I've heard all of this with a different name, right? So again, the universal truths will always come through. We may call it something different. We may disguise it differently, dress it differently, but what's true is true, right? Like self-doubt is self-doubt across the eons and the cultures and the generations and everything else, right? Like joy is joy across everything, right?
Well, yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about those writers, and a lot of them in the early 1900s. I mean, it's published. I think it's kind of awesome that book by Florence Scovel Shinn came out in 1925. It's also the same year that Napoleon Hill released The Law of Success. And these are the coincidences. Are just if we want to call them that, right? But the ways that things line up, where this information is coming through at certain times, and there has been this thing where we, I think, got away from it, or it's always been a little bit on sort of the back shelf, or in the back. But I just think that, now there's so many people that are seeking that type of information. And of course, we have the internet, so you can find anything. And the great thing about YouTube, to be honest, right, is that once you watch one video, then they show you all the other ones related to it, which is one of the benefits that we have in that realm, I guess. But both of those authors really came from a place of wanting to help people create richness in all aspects of their life, and richness in relationships and richness in their health, and just really becoming better individuals, more productive, and just doing what we can to reach our full potential. And that's ultimately, part of what I believe I'm here to help people do.
And you are actively doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Elizabeth Gilbert says in one of her books, I think it's Big Magic, she says that there are, at any given time, ideas floating through the universe, and it's up to you to be open to pluck it out and create something with it. And so that's why you see like a lot of discoveries across time are discovered at the same time in totally different parts of the world, right? Like for our Charles Darwin, there's someone else that also did that at the same time, right? For every concept, it's also happening somewhere else all at the same time. So it's interesting that you mentioned this time period, right? 1925-ish, that these things all came out at the same time. Coincidence or not? I don't know.
Right.
Is it? I don't know if it's my turn, Julietta, but I'm going to ask the next question if you're cool with that.
Absolutely.
Julietta's so easy with everything. She's just so chill. I love her.
Me too.
I'm the hype one. Julietta's the chill one. One of the things that we talk about a lot is taking risks and, doing things that may be a little terrifying now, but it ends up paying off later. So what's something that you've done in your life that you're like, man, I'm so glad I did that. Like no regrets, for better, for worse. That was amazing.
Definitely becoming a chiropractor. I got introduced to chiropractic at 16 years old. I didn't know what a chiropractor was, but I got put into a mentor program. And when I was in high school in 16, I thought I wanted to mentor under a massage therapist. So they put me to mentor under the massage therapist. She happened to be in a chiropractor's office. And, I'm 16 years old. I'm thinking cruise ships, exotic destinations, massage, this is going to be great. The fanning, leaf that they do when you're on the beach. And so,
what mentorship did you go on? Man, that's amazing.
So this is my perception from a small town in Central Florida of what massage therapy is. So they put me into mentor, and my first massage, I'm sitting there, and this, she says, okay, you're going to sit here, and she had her woo-woo going, Julietta. And at 16, religious, I didn't know anything about woo-woo. So already I'm a little skeptical as soon as she started putting her, give me a hug. And we were so friendly on first meeting. So the first massage that I'm mentoring under her, it was a man, and it was a big, hairy guy, right? And she's massaging this guy, and it didn't take very long, and I'm thinking maybe this isn't what I want to do, right? So I excused myself out of the room as quickly as possible, but then there was this commotion, and a car pulled up, and they went and got a wheelchair and wheeled it out the door, and then they wheeled a man in, and he looked like, I'm 16, I don't know anything. He looks like he's dying. He's hunched over, and the guy looks like he's already dying. They wheel him into the office. He's in there for 2 hours getting treatment and, x-rays, everything that he had done. When he leaves, I could tell he was feeling quite a bit better. And so then about a week later, I saw the same gentleman, and he came walking in the office. Wow. And in my mind, this was like a miracle, right? He was paralyzed, and now the guy's walking all of a sudden. I probably just had really bad sciatica or low back pain or something, but it made such an impact on my mind that I just started saying, I'm going to be a chiropractor. And I really had no reason to really follow it through, except that I do believe that I was speaking it into existence now looking back. And it's been a long, hard road, I would say. A lot of risks involved in that, and then other risks in starting my own business and doing the things related to that. But I've come to believe that taking risks is really just purely a matter of what you can stand mentally and emotionally. And I found that, I try to take every opportunity that I can, because I now know that failure is intimately related to success. That if you're not taking risks, you can't fail. And if you can't fail at something, you can't learn a better way to do it and then grow and move on. And so it's really helped me over the years to get rid of that fear of failure, because I just know that, hey, I'm going to come out of it with something positive one way or another. And if I jump right in and I find out that this is not the right path, I know it'll lead me to what the next best path is for me in my life. And so, that's what I would say about taking risk and how important it is just in our life in general.
Absolutely. Glad you took the risk. So the one thing we love doing for our audience is leaving them with something super sweet and delicious to take home with that. And we're doing that through people's memories. So if you would please share with us your most delicious, sweetest memory.
So I'm literally going to talk about food just because exciting. Because
this is an access point for sure. That's the way to my heart. Talk to me.
Right. But really, it's a metaphor that I use for life. One of my memories, one of my greatest memories, and I was around for the birth of my children. Those were amazing things. They were born at home, the younger two. I mean, those were just amazing experiences. But in life, one of the things that I use as a metaphor for my own mental and emotional state is I have this memory of my grandmother taking cornbread out of the oven. She cooked it in a cast iron skillet. At the time, I mean, we were poor, and she would take this cornbread out and let it cool on the stove. And as soon as it cooled after 30 minutes, we cut a piece and she would put butter on it and then drizzle honey. And that experience of putting warm cornbread in your mouth with butter and honey on it is just fantastic if you've never experienced that. But I really use it as a way to change my mental state so that if I'm asking for guidance about something, I'm trying to figure something out, I find that if I can go into that place in my mind where it's like putting the bite of warm cornbread in your mouth, then it instantly changes my awareness, it changes my state. And then from that place is where I want to try to move with intention. So I use it as sort of a trigger. It's just I can kind of bring that up at any point in time. Sometimes I'll find myself, searching for an answer or not understanding, which path I want to take. But if I can just put that warm cornbread in my mouth, now I can get centered. And from there, I can move forward and all things are yummy and sweet and delicious.
I'm hungry.
I know this might be one of the most beautiful memories. And I love that you brought up your kids like, hey, love you guys too. But man, nothing compares to warm cornbread. Like, I think we may have just coined a phrase now, like feeling bad, cornbread time.
There we go.
I'm definitely sharing this. I love that. What a great story. And I love that you were so specific as you were, because I can have that experience. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to order some right now.
Perfect. Let's make some.
You can order cornbread on Uber Eats.
I'm going to figure it out today. I'm going to figure it out.
It might not be from a cast iron skillet, though. I'm not sure.
Probably not, but
and won't have grandma's love in it, because that definitely makes a difference. But
that's right.
It is very particular, though. I'll tell you, my boyfriend, his late grandmother was a Southern grandma, Georgia, born and raised, and she would make cornbread like that, and she would make sweet tea to go with it. And when I tell you that it was sweet tea, like it was diabetic tea, like it was like
pour the sugar in.
It's such a specific flavor, and we've never been able to make it the same again, So thank you for bringing that up. What a beautiful memory. I'm so glad you came on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing, and I just feel so honored to be here.
It was great having you. Thank you for stepping up in our scheduling craziness. Dr. Andrews stepped up and jumped in early for us, so we appreciate you doing that as well. And thanks for all the nuggets you've shared with our audience. Lots of good stuff in there. So
lots of good stuff. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to also hang out with us in our Facebook group. I want to hear everybody's favorite memory. Like, go in there, pop in your memory. Have you had the cornbread in a cast iron skillet? What's your secret recipe? I want to hear all about it.
Bye, everyone.
All right, guys. Great day. Thank you, dear ones, for joining us today. Make sure you check out the show notes for details on how to get in touch with either Julieta, Graciela, or today's special guest. Don't forget to subscribe, review, like, and share.
Big love and gratitude for all of you. May the path before you be ever illuminated by your fellow goddesses. Shine bright and have a magical day.